Greetings, my name is Leo, aka Knockdeaf, and today I will be teaching you guys how to make this. What? Whoops, here we go. The Galaxy Shader skin from Fortnite. So, this is actually a very simple shader. It uses some unknown tools in a very creative way, and I really like those kind of shaders that are not really hard to do from a code standpoint and just hard to do from a conceptual standpoint. So essentially the way this shader is achieved is using a cube map. And cube map, essentially there are three types of cube maps. There's cube maps for windows, cube maps for reflections, and cube maps for shaders. All of them are the same technically, but they are done in different ways and they are used in very different ways. And artistically, they look the same structurally, but like the textures, you can clearly see that it's for a different purpose. So in order for you guys to understand better what I mean by cube map, this is a cube map that is it's a very good example. So look at this. This is the cube map that is reflected on this sphere right here. So imagine this as a room where each one of those squares is one side of the room. This is in fact not one texture, but it is 6 textures that are going to be projected on the inner faces of a cube. And when you put a camera inside of that cube, whenever that camera moves, it changes where the position of the face that the camera is pointing at. And this is reflected in here. Imagine that we are inside of a cube right now, and as you can see, as we look around, we cannot see a seam between those textures. Everything blends in nicely. And what we'll be doing, this shader right here, is essentially this. You know, I have 2 versions here. This is the normal Galaxy version, and I did a twirly one because I personally, like my personal preference, I think the twirly one looks better, looks more university, but I'll teach you guys how to make it later. And as you guys can see, as we move our camera around, the cube, the texture moves around and we can't see the difference between one face of the cube and the other. But here's the catch. To achieve this effect where if we move our camera, we can see inside of the model, almost. And also, if we move the model, you guys can see that the texture stays still. This is done because the position of the cube map is not the character. The cube map is not following the character around. And yet, the cube map is in a still place on the world, in a road position, and as the model walks through the world, it walks through different parts of the cube map. And this is how Fortnite achieved that effect. So, could this be done with a normal texture? Yes, it could. Why is it done through cube map? Because this way, if you look directly up at the character, you can see different textures from when you look from down to up. And this is done on purpose. This way, the shader does not get repetitive and it looks like it is truly infinity and not just an image projected and not moving along with the character. So this shader is also very versatile. As you guys can see here, my shader name is Bananas Give Potassium. And this shader has 3 parts into it, 3 parts that play into it. It has a Fresnel effect, which is this rim light, this blue rim light. This is a very Fortnite thing to have. So if you guys look at the original, you guys will notice that he has this rim light, this blue light around him, and this is what the Fresnel is. Also, I don't have a video to showcase, but those stars, they move along the model, and this is what this stars parameter is here. This is the texture that we'll be using. And the cool thing is that this cube map could be anything. So in this case, I'm using the twirly, right? I'm using this one. But I could go and change with one click to the default. This is the Fortnite style universe. As you guys can see, it is not twirly. It is just, you know, a plain universe. I personally like to use the twirl, but, you know, you do you. So let's build it. So I have been talking for like 5 minutes and 30 seconds about cube maps. So it's time to make one. For this kind of specific cube map, what we'll be doing is a panorama cube map. This one, okay? So there are other kinds of cube map, but those are more complicated, and I'm not teaching them today. There's like the fake geometry cube map, as I like to call it, that is used to make fake windows and stuff like that. There's the cube map that is reflection cube map, and there's of course this one, which is the environment cube map, the shader cube map. So this folder here on Google Drive, the link is down in the description below. You can download all of those images and all of those assets that I used, but essentially it's very simple. First, I did a panorama. First, I did a tiling universe kind of Fortnite style picture, which is essentially made with one base shader with me painting along some places. Then I put some stars. Then I put more stars with a different blending mode. This one is in color dodge, so it absorbs a little bit of the color. Then I blended this image right here, this image detail with this image lightning information, and I created this image right here. Once I did that, I blended it all together and made sure that no one could see anything. And I did the same for this one. But this one, I added some troll. How to add this troll, you may ask? Well, you go Control F. And I personally find this really pretty, so I'm going to show you guys how I did it. So in here, you search Liquify. And you click on that. It will open a new tab. A new tab will pop up. And here we can select the forward warp, and we can just paint along some twirly textures, right? What you can also do is go for the twirl clockwise, and you can just do this along everywhere if you're feeling like it. I don't think it would look good, but you know, it's a useful tool. So once we have that, once we have those two images, let me open here my file. We can go to panorama to cube map. Here on my thingy, I have a document with all of the tools that I used. So there's the link for this thingy. I'm going to put the link up in the description below too, who knows. And in here, if we go for this thingy, you guys will see that we have this panoramas images. So if I take one of those panorama images, choose file, and I take like, let's do the panorama normal one. And you guys will see that it will generate for me a cube map, a perfect cube map ready to use. And to put this cube map in, all you need to do is once again, open up this Photoshop file, right? And you can use this as a basis, or you can go into view, and then you can go new guide layout, and you do 4 columns by 3 rows, and you have this guide where you can lay out perfectly, pixel perfect, your cube map. So this is how I did the cube map. So now let's create the shader. Let's put the cube map that we just created into Unity. So let's create, right click. Let's delete this shader actually. Okay, let's delete the cube maps. You're gonna go to the file that you downloaded, and you're gonna get one of the cube maps. In this case, let's do with the classic one, right? Let's do with the classic one. So Galaxy Cube Map. Okay, and we're gonna drag that in. Once you drag that in, you can see that Unity still thinks this is just a normal texture. So we need to tell it that no, it is not a 2D texture. It is a cube. And if you put that on auto, it should just recognize that it's a 6-face cube. Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, as you guys can see here, perfect thingy, okay? Each face of this texture has 512 resolution, so it's a very high resolution cube map, and I believe, I'm not sure, but I'm inclined to think that this is the same resolution that Fortnite used. So let's go. Now that we have our cube map, you're gonna right click and you're going to click on create, and let's do a new shader. And let's do PBR graph. If you don't have PBR graph, what you need to do is go into component, asset, package manager, and you need to download the PBR graph there. It's very easy. You can Google it. It's super easy to do. So here we're going to call this Fortnite Galaxy Skin. All right, it created the file. So let's double click. Cool. So now we have this file right here, right? Let's disable the main preview and let's work this out. So this is all of the inputs that our shader has. In this case, this shader is very simple. It only uses the albedo and the emissive channel. So what we'll do here, we need to tell the shader that we have a cube map. So let's create a new cube map variable here. We're going to call this galaxy background or whatever you want to call it. And here on the cube map, we're going to click on this little eye thingy and we're going to put galaxy cube map. Now that we have that, we're going to drag this out and do a cube, a sample cube map. Come on, cube map. Okay, very cool. And we have a cube map at our hands, but you guys are going to notice something. If I put this on albedo and on my emissive channel, so albedo is color, emission is lighting information, and we want this to irradiate light, if that makes sense. So we're going to plug it in on both plugs. So if we go now over here, and let's say we want to say that this uses our brand new galaxy shader, right? And it uses the galaxy background. You guys will notice that this looks like garbage. And as I move around, the universe is standing still. So why is that? This is because the cube map is following the mesh around. We don't want that. We want the cube map to stay in a place. So what this means is that we want to put the view direction from object space to rolled space. So if we drag this out and we say rolled, okay, view direction then. View direction. And here we have the space rolled. So now it will the cube map will stay still no matter how much we move. But we still have a problem. And it is that the normal, it is using the object's normal. So it will project the cube map with a normal map, and we don't want that. So let's create a constant normal, which is going to be a vector 3, right? And what we'll do here is the following. We want this one to be positive, and everything else, just keep it as 0. And what this means is that we're putting those bad boys to stay still, and we want this to be outside, going outwards. I don't know how can I better explain myself here, because I would have to show up a normal map and like show the different channels, but let's not do that. So now that we save the asset, you guys will notice that if we go over here, we have a very basic version of that. Aha, look at that. You can see that line, that terrible, terrible line over there. So as you guys can see, this is already, Fortnite-ish, but it's still not quite right. So we still need to fix some stuff. If you guys look at the Fortnite Galaxy skin, you guys will notice that it has this whitish outline. So this is what we're going to do now. Let's double click on our shader. And what we'll do is the following. This is our main shader. Let's go over here and let's create a new node called Fresnel. So now with the Fresnel effect, what it does is the following. It creates a map that goes from 0 to 1. Simple as that. So if I put a value like, let's put 8. I think 8 should look good. As you guys can see, this ball right here has a map that goes from 1 in the very edge, choose 0 here on the middle part. This means that since this is a value from 1 to 0, we can multiply mathematically for something. And what we can use is a color, because many people don't realize this, but colors are actually numbers. A color is an array of 3 numbers, and those 3 numbers combined make a color. So let's pick a color. Fortnite has a very bluish, very light, as you guys can see, it's almost white, but it's a bluish white, and wham! This is going to be multiplied by this, which the final result is just going to be this, but whitish, but bluish, sorry. So now that we have that, let's select this. And what we'll do is add our Fresnel effect to our cube map. So now if we put that on albedo, and of course, whoops, and of course on emissive, let's save and see how that looks. Look at this. Now this is more like it. It's looking a little bit closer. You know, it's not perfect, but it's a start. It's a start, right? It's actually looking pretty cool. So now what we'll do is the stars, because if you guys look in here, it has a little bit of stars in front of him, and those stars, they keep panning away. So first I'm going to teach you guys how I did the texture. So once again, the texture for you guys is already ready. All you need to do is download this texture right here, panning stars. But for educational purposes, I'm going to teach you guys how I did it. So let's close this guy. Nope. All right. And if we create a new file and come on, create new. So we're going to make it, let's go, I don't know, 512 by 512. Black background, and let's create. So over here, once again, in the resources file, we have this right here, Photoshop Sparkles brush. You download that, and you're going to have new brushes to work with. So let's select the brush tool. Okay. Let's put this to completely white. Okay. And over here, we're going to have a new section called Special Effects Brushes, Media, Militia, Bling, or whatever it's called. We're going to select that, make it smaller, open brush open brush properties, and we have this slider right here, which is the rotation of the brush. So what we'll do is we'll put a star, we'll rotate a little bit, we'll put a star, we'll rotate a tiny bit, and this is just to make sure that the stars don't look the same throughout. Okay, so then you change the brush for a different kind of star, and you just make it smaller, bigger, you know, whatever. Of course, here I'm not going to do it perfectly because this is just teaching purposes. Of course, you would put more effort than what I'm doing right now if you want to make your own texture, but still, you know, let's suppose that this is as pretty and as good looking as the other texture. Now what we do is the following. We duplicate the layer, and we're going to go here into view, and we're going to create a new grid layout, and we're going to say that it's a 2 by 2, whoops, a 2 by 2, and this is essentially going to give us fourths of our texture to work with. So what I like to do is get the texture, the main texture that we did, and I just decrease its size, and I put inside the boundaries of this fourth to create more depth. And we'll duplicate this layer, and we'll do the same over here. And so it doesn't, you know, so it doesn't get obvious that we're just copying and pasting. We're gonna do a flip horizontal, you know, and flip vertical or whatever. You know, we're just gonna play around. Let's duplicate this once again. Let's put it over here, and let's do like, you know, like let's put it in a funny angle just to make sure that it's not obvious that we're just copying and pasting. And then let's duplicate this again and just keep that, and I don't know, add some more stuff, and I don't know, flip horizontally, you know, just to create some depth. And now those 4 that we created, the new ones, right? Those here, we're gonna press Control E to merge them into the same folder. And what we'll do, this texture right here is the main texture, so we're going to duplicate it just to make it pop out more, just to make it whiter, right? And those textures, we want to create a sense that they're in the background. So the way to do it is the following. We just decrease the opacity a little bit. And now all of a sudden, we have those main textures, those main, you know, beautiful ones. And then we have those in the background. And now, remember what I said, the Gaussian blur makes things like they spread a little bit. So this is exactly what we'll do. We'll put a filter and we're gonna go Gaussian blur. Here we go. This should be just a tiny bit. 0. Let's go a little bit more. You see that now those stars look like they're far, far away. So this is how I did the stars texture, but of course I put a lot of effort into it. This is why this one looks so pretty and shimmery and, you know, so good. So that's how I did the texture. As you guys can see, the texture is already over here at Unity. You just import it. The default settings should be fine for it. I did it 1024 by 1024. But you can definitely make it smaller. I opened it up over here. Whoops. To show you guys. Look at this. Beautiful texture. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So now let's open up the shader. And we have a new texture. So let's tell the software that we have a new texture 2D. So this is going to be the stars panning. Oops, panning stars actually. Panning stars. And here on the texture, let's choose our panning stars texture. All right. So what we'll do is the following. We want the texture to move along our mesh, right? And we want to do that in programming terms. This means that we want to offset the position of our texture, right? So let's create here texture sample texture 2D. Cool. So this means that we want to move this texture along something. In this case, we're going to use UV, and most things we're going to use UV actually in VFX, and UV is essentially the wireframe that tells where things should be rendered. So essentially, we want to move this texture as time goes on a UV coordinate. So this means that as time goes on, we want to move the U and V position according to the time value. But of course, time in Unity passes through in unexpected ways, and we want to have control over this time. So we're going to create a new variable. This is going to be a vector1, and it's going to call pan rate. And essentially, this is going to multiply how fast time goes on. So time is a value. If it is a number, it can be multiplied, unless it is 0, but you get the idea. I mean, you can multiply, but you know, you guys get what I mean. So what we'll do now is the following. We need this to be a U and V position. So in order to do this in Unity, usually people use the combine node because we're going to use the red and green values because a UV is composed of red and green. So we need to tell the software that those values are going to be put on the red and green value. And the only way to reliably do that and have control over each value individually, if you do want to do so, then we need to use the combine node and use the output RG and plug it into the UV. And this is 0. Let's put 0.8. Let's see. How does this looks? All right, I don't think this is working very well. So I don't know why this isn't. Oh, I see. This is, oh, okay. Okay, I'm an idiot. So this should be on the offset because this is what we want to do, right? We want to offset the image. And as you guys can see, it is offsetting successfully. So this is kind of fast, actually. Yeah, I like this better because I want it to be very, very slow. So now we have our effect ready because the effect is composed of only these parts. So let's assemble it. So just like we did in here, we're going to add those values. So what we'll do is go over here and we'll do an add node and we'll add those two together. And now we have the same thing as before, but with a penning texture through it. So let's add the Fresnel into it, which is the outline. And now that we have done that, let's save the asset. Let's save the asset. Very cool. Let's close it off. And in here on our material, what we'll do is, you see the penning stars. Let's plug this texture in. And now if we hit play, it should be working. All right, boys, it works. It's alive. Okay, those stars are clearly way too fast, but we can adapt the value as we wish. So if we look in here, I think those stars are too fast. I don't know actually if it is that fast, but it's alive. The shader is working. It took a while to load. You can just put in here in the editor. So if we put like, let's halve that value from 0.8 to 0.4, and if we hit play, it will update because those values are exposed by default. So, let's see here. My computer is kind of garbage, boys, so it takes a little bit for things to load. Look at that, beautiful. Yeah, this is more my style, I like it when it's a little bit slower. So, and as you guys can see, it is working. It is everything. It's perfectly working. Look at this. When we walk around, we have different, we have like the universe projected on the images. If the thingies move around, they are projected too. This project, I don't have a third-person player controller, so I can't really show to you guys what would it look like playing the character. But that's it. This is how it works. So if you guys found this tutorial useful, if you guys learned anything by it, please don't forget to leave a like. I would really like that. I never done YouTube really, so I don't really know if I like really matters, but I assume it does. So it would help me out. Also, if you guys have any suggestions for improvements, because of course I'm not perfect. I'm still learning Unity. I have worked with Unreal before, and this is one of my first, I'm still making the transition to Unity. And also, if you guys have any questions, please leave it down below. I'll be happy to answer. So thanks a lot for the attention, and I hope you guys liked the tutorial.